Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Wednesday, October 1st. Happy 1st of October, everybody. Halloween's right around the corner, but welcome back to the Today in Sports. This is Video Sports Analysis, and welcome back to the show. We got some news to talk about today. Gonna break down some wild card games, talk about some news we just got around the Cleveland Browns, but we got some things to talk about today. We're going to start off in the football realm. I think a lot of you saw this morning that the Cleveland Browns have officially made the quarterback change. I've talked about in the past episodes how the Browns were going to probably start a new quarterback this weekend, and it is official. Dylan Gabriel, their third round pick out of Oregon, will be starting for the Cleveland Browns this weekend against the Minnesota Vikings in London. The Vikings were now playing their second consecutive game in Europe. But yeah, watching the Browns for the last few weeks, their biggest issue has really been the passing attack. It's been really inconsistent at times. The majority of their touchdowns have come on the running game through Keyshawn Judkins, who had another good performance last weekend against Detroit. But the passing offense just hasn't been able to get going, and it's cost the Browns sincerely because of it. So they are going to change up the quarterback, see how Dylan Gabriel can do this weekend against the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm not too sure if Shador is going to be backing him up or if it's going to be Flacco, but we will see. And, hopefully maybe we'll see Shore get some time. I'm really hoping that we do get to see Shador as the backup and then Flacco as the third string. The only reason I say that is because the Browns have two rookie quarterbacks who are looking to take advantage of an opportunity. Say when Flacco ever slipped up, Flacco slipped up. First 3 weeks for the passing game hasn't been good, so now they're going to the running game a lot more often because of that and have to rely on the running backs. Now we're seeing Dylan Gabriel now getting the start for the Browns. It'll be interesting to see if he can be the one who gets the passing attack going, and if he isn't, maybe Shador will be the one who comes in to get some of that playing time. But yeah, that's really all the news I had for the NFL. Not too crazy news this morning. But getting into the baseball landscape, big news for baseball. Obviously, the wildcard games were yesterday. I'm going to break down the games here in just a second. But the first news I want to talk about is the Brian Snitker era in Atlanta is officially over, as the Braves and Brian Snitker have mutually agreed to part ways after what was a really rough season for the Atlanta Braves. They officially part way from Snitker. The Braves will have a new manager next season. Um, Obviously, we're not really going to know for sure who's going to be the starting manager until we really get further into the playoffs or into the postseason in the offseason when we start to see more names flying around. I haven't seen too many names flying around just yet, but I have seen one big name for the Angels managerial position. Obviously, we saw earlier that Ron Washington, who had been managing the Los Angeles Angels, will officially be stepping aside, and the Angels and him have mutually agreed to part ways. Um, doesn't come surprising to me. Ron Washington dealt with some health problems last season, so it looks like it was only right that he just stepped away from baseball so he can get his health prioritized. Thank you, Ron Washington. You were a great manager. We wish you the best and what might be his retirement. But we saw big, major rumor coming out. Albert Pujols is officially the front runner to become the Angels' next manager. We have seen in some other organizations, seeing some players become a coach or an executive in the executive branch. Buster Posey is Giants general manager. He was announced that before the season began. So it'll be interesting for me to see if the Angels actually do pursue to make Pujols their next manager. He did spend some time in Los Angeles. Those years weren't the greatest, but he still knows the organization well. And so it'll be interesting to see if they actually do get Pujols as their manager. Obviously, Pujols was involved in baseball for decades. He was in Major League Baseball for over 2 decades. He knows the sport very well. So I do think he has the experience to be a good manager, and seeing how the Angels did take a lot of steps forward last season, both in the pitching and in the offense, with Ohapi looking really well. So is Zach Neto. Mike Trout's going to be Mike Trout. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to finally bounce back from the injuries he's suffered over the last couple of seasons. So it'll be interesting to see if Pujols does actually become the Angels manager. But I'm going to look at my phone a lot to see if there's any other news I can talk about in the show. But let's get to baseball. Obviously, yesterday were the first of the 4 wild card games. The games continue today and tomorrow if necessary. Um, let's go. I'm going to break down the games in order, starting with the Guardians versus Tigers. First of all, Tarek Skubal. Wow. What a performance from Tarek Skubal. 14 strikeouts, pitched 7 and 2/3, allowed 3 walks, 3 hits, only 1 run. But the Tigers do get the best of the Guardians, despite the fact that Ramirez had a leadoff triple to start off the ninth inning for the Guards. Cleveland falls 2-1 to Detroit. Was fantastic pitching for Detroit. I do still think the Guardians can win the series, however. I did mention yesterday how the Guardians matched up well against the Tigers, just not Tarek Skubal. Skubal obviously started yesterday, looked phenomenal. Guardians just couldn't get much of anything going on offense with how Detroit pitched very well yesterday. But today's a new day. Cleveland did hit the Tigers fairly well over the course of the season against pitchers not named Tarek Skubal, so I do still think that the Guardians are going to win this series. But obviously, Detroit got off to a fantastic start yesterday. And then Cubs versus Braves just started off, not Braves, Padres, sorry. In the second inning, it started off when Xander Bogaerts had the 1-run double off of Matthew Boyd, but then the fifth inning is where it started to fall apart for the Padres. Back-to-back solo bombs from Carson Kelly and Seiya Suzuki, and then the RBI sac fly from Nico Horner in the eighth solidified it. Cubs pitching staff looked very well. I feel like both teams pitched well at points, but obviously that fifth inning is what made the difference for the Chicago Cubs with those 2 back-to-back solo bombs, and that made the difference. I do still believe that the Padres can win this series, but they got to get Tatis and Machado going. Machado and Tatis did not have good games yesterday when it combined over 7. Doesn't help when Arias doesn't get a hit either, but overall, the Padres offense has had a really rough game yesterday against Matthew Boyd. So we'll see how they do today. We'll start with the first game, obviously. Today at 1 o'clock, starting in a little bit, it'll be Casey Mize for the Tigers and then Tanner Bibby for the Guardians. For the Padres game, the Padres will be starting Dylan Cease and the Cubs will be starting Andrew Kittredge. For Yankees Red Sox, a little breakdown here in the middle will be Brian Bayo for the Red Sox and Carlos Rodon for the Yankees. And for the Reds Dodgers game, Zach Littell will start for the Reds and Yoshinobu Yamamoto will start for the Dodgers. But to break down the last 2 games yesterday, the Yankees offense, man. That was abysmal from the Yankees. That was depressing. They started off, so first of all, Red Sox won the game 3-1. Offense played okay. Great pitching from the Red Sox, especially from Chapman. The Yankees started off the bottom of the ninth inning with 3 straight singles to load the bases and then proceeded to go down, strikeout, flyout, strikeout in order. Obviously, I think many of us saw the video yesterday of Jazz Chisholm Jr., the way he handled the reporter question asking him about playing time and why he wasn't in the starting lineup for the Yankees. I think is a weird choice to not go with him. I do think Chisholm will start today with the right-handed pitcher and Brian Bayo starting for the Red Sox, but great start for Boston, not a good start for New York. Once again, New York's offense has not been able to hit in the playoffs. We saw Judge be able to get a hit, but other than that, they just haven't been able to score. And they didn't yesterday. So, Yankees got to figure out how to hit. And then breaking down the last game, Dodgers versus Reds. Obviously, the Dodgers offense cruised two home runs from both Teoscar Hernandez and Shohei Ohtani. One of those solo bombs from Shohei was to lead off the game. But yeah, Hunter Green had probably his worst start of the season. Maybe his worst start of his career. Allowing 5 runs and being pulled after the 3rd inning. Not a good start for Hunter Green. And the Dodgers offense just went. But there is one hope for the Reds this series. First and foremost, the Reds have struggled against left-handed pitching, not just this season, but the 2 years prior. Left-handed pitching has been their kryptonite. Blake Snell threw a no-hitter against the Reds last season. And it's because of how weakly they fare against a left-handed pitcher. But the good news for the Reds is that it's going to be righty-righty starting for the next couple days. Yamamoto starts for the Dodgers today, and it's most likely that Shohei will start for the Dodgers tomorrow. If Game 3 is necessary. The Dodgers bullpen yesterday nearly imploded. When the Reds scored their 5th run in the 8th inning, they had the bases loaded and only 1 out with the tying run on deck. And they issued a lot of just free pass runs. The Dodgers bullpen just looked abysmal yesterday. Granted, they were up by 8, but if you're in the playoffs, no lead is safe in the postseason. And when you were up by 8, but then to allow the bases loaded, allow multiple just RBI walks, free passes to score, it's not a good look from the Dodgers pitching staff at all. So there is still hope for the Reds. They did look solid in the 8th inning, but obviously with the onslaught of offense the Dodgers put up before and every inning before that. The Reds just never had a chance to get going. But two right-handed pitchers will starting for the Dodgers. It'll be Yamamoto today, Shohei tomorrow. It is most likely we could see the Reds offense start to put up a better output of offense tomorrow, today, and maybe tomorrow. But I do still think the Dodgers are most likely going to win the series. I'm going to cheer for my Reds, but you never know. Most likely we'll see the Dodgers play the Phillies. Obviously, the winner of this series will take on Philadelphia next week. But great start for the Dodgers. Did they use all of their offensive gas in that first game? We don't know, but it'll be Zach Littell starting for the Reds. An interesting decision, in my opinion. There is a good chance, in my opinion, that we will see Littell as the opener, and then we'll see Lodolo come in relief after the first little bit of the game. But still an interesting choice to see Littell as the opener. But to go down my predictions for today, as far as Tigers versus Guardians go, I do think that the Guardians get a win there and force a game 3 tomorrow. I think the Padres will beat the Cubs. I'm going to go on a bold take, and I'm going to say that the Red Sox sweep the Yankees today. And I'm going to go with the Dodgers to beat the Reds. It pains me to say this. I do hope that the Reds can win since they're facing a right-handed pitcher, but too much talent on the Dodgers. Way too much talent, especially on the offensive side. So I do expect that we will see the Dodgers and the Red Sox complete their sweeps, while we will see the Padres versus Cubs and Tigers versus Guardians series go on until tomorrow to determine those series. Also in the baseball realm, the Colorado Rockies have announced today that Bill Schmidt has stepped down from his role as general manager, and the Rockies will begin an external search for a new head of baseball operations immediately. So, change coming to the Rockies organization after they nearly had the worst season, the most losing season in baseball history. If you thought last year's White Sox were bad, the Rockies this year were abysmal. So they definitely needed someone new. Yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode. There'll be more news coming out tomorrow, and I will be the one who will be out here to cover. But until then, thank you for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow. So have a fantastic Wednesday.